Hello, peoples of the internet. Today, I thought I would talk about the present collective information that's coming up at this time period to be cleared and healed. And it has to do with subtle cues and toxic empathy. So, as in the toxic empath, which is something we do to our own selves. And what I've been noticing, I was driving the car the other day and I had saw somebody in front of me in a car, and it was a Mazda Miata. And I recognized the Mazda Miata, like from our era, like they were everywhere. But nowadays you don't see them anymore. And there was two young girls looking over at this car. And when they looked at the car, the first thought that went through my head is, oh my God, I hope this isn't that fat idiot. And who I was speaking about is an ex-boyfriend's brother who was quite creepy. And I think my a false protection mechanism was to call him out for what he was, thinking that somehow that was going to protect me or protect these girls or something else. And as I had that thought, the God source put a vibration on the thought. And that's how I know that it's something important to pay attention to and to attend to. Hair on my nose. And when I had that thought, the God source was kind of asking me, like, do you really think that about that person, Lisa? And I was like, I don't know. And like, it's not typical of me to have mean thoughts of people. So I was a little bit surprised, but at the same time, like I said, I thought it was like a protection mechanism. And so the God source said, it reminded me of a lesson that it taught me 5 or 6 years ago. And the lesson was about dynamical ways of existing. And the lesson is that if someone else has a wound space inside of them, then oftentimes you're going to play out the other side of that wound. And we do that because we're dynamical creatures, and because it's almost like it's an opportunity to heal ourselves. That's Evie barking. Evie's partially in the room and partially not in the room today. I recently got a dog door, so she's actually out on the deck right now, barking at, who knows, a cat or a squirrel or a tree or a kid. So that's that sound. But yeah, so the dynamic for us is that when someone's got a wound space, you'll pick it up and you won't even know why you pick it up. And at that time period, I remember having a thought. I drove past a girl who had on, a short top and short shorts. And I was kind of like, oh, why is she wearing that? It doesn't fit her body or something like that. And right away, I was like, what the heck? Like, what do I care? Like, I literally don't care. So it's an odd thought to have. And that's when the God source said to me, that's not your thought. You're picking up the other side of her dynamic. She has a judgment about herself that she's trying to heal. And me, as the other side of the dynamic, was picking that up. And at that point in time, it said, we don't have to do that. You can just clear that program and recognize that that's not my thought and I'm not doing that, and I can send healing and harmonic frequency into it, including into my own self, which creates a sacred space for the other where it's not played out. Because if you say the thought and you believe the thought, then you are actually playing out their wound, and you're going to actually solidify their wound even further. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to take part in that. I want to send that girl love. At the same time period, there was another lesson that was coming in that was about like drivers, people who like cut you off or, drive what I'm going to say inappropriately, but my biggest wound is road rage. So I get mostly frustrated, annoyed, and angry when I'm driving, especially if I feel as if somebody's, disservice me or cut me off or, something of the sort. And at that time period, the God Source said, the best way to deal with that is, again, you're playing out a dynamic. And the best way to deal with it is to say, I give them permission. So I give them permission to drive like that. I give them permission to cut me off. I give them permission to be judgmental. I give them permission to be a know-it-all. I give them permission to be rude and ingrateful. It's when you give the other person permission, it automatically stops the dynamic and it falls away from you so that you're in a state of freedom in regards to, number one, your own self, and secondarily, in regards to the other. So it's an immediate halt jam of the dynamic. And it works really well. I've used that technique a lot in my life, and it immediately brings you from that state of anger, rage, or annoyance, or frustration, or like continuous pondering upon, where you pay the price for that, into a state of kind of lightheartedness, chuckling, and not caring. And so it was reminding me of that lesson in that time period. And so it was telling me, in regards to this guy in the car, I could just say, I give you permission to be how you are or who you are. And I did that, but it was still having that sort of vibration to it. And the God Source was saying to me, okay, Lisa, for one thing, are you going to let them tell you who you are? And I was like, what do you mean? And the God Source says, well, if you say in your head, as the dynamic, oh, that fat idiot, then the next thing I'm going to say to myself is, wow, you're a bitch, right? I'm going to call myself that. But the reality is I'm not. I'm actually toxically empathing their information. And as an empath, that's the old mode of empathing, was to pick up other people's stuff and then feel as if it was your job to fix it, save it, heal it. And in this circumstance, I was picking up his stuff, but I was also picking up what, like, the girls looking at the car and thinking like, this perv is gonna, do something to these girls. And the God Source was saying, like, none of that's your information. That's not your burden. That's not your business. And I was thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that when, even as soon as I have the thought, I'm actually giving my focus and my life force to the other person. So as soon as I have the thought, and if I'm pondering on it, I'm wasting life force on that person's issue. And it's not my job to figure out his issue. It's not my job to tell him who he should be or how he should be. It's not my job. My job is, who am I and how am I existing in this world? And I'm not doing any of that, and it's not mine. So when we pick up a subtle cue like that, and these are those subtle cues. So the subtle cue was somebody else's pain or something happening in the external realm. And as a free will being and as a conscious being, I can choose not to engage it and just literally to, like, I don't care. I can let that go. And at this point, the God Source was reminding me of a release I did a while ago in regards to getting to a place in our existence where what people do outside of us and around us won't affect you. And basically, the God Source was showing me at that point in time, that's like Christ-like existing in the way that the God Source said, like, Christ just didn't care. Christ didn't give two fucks about these things. He didn't give his life force to other people's stuff. And instead what he did is he retained all that life force in his own body. So he retained it inside of himself. He focused his life force into him. And the other thing is, it was showing me in this vision was, it was saying that Christ was also celibate. And so Christ was also retaining all of that sexual energy. So instead of wasting life force frequency on that, he decided to retain that life force frequency. And instead of tending to taking care of like judging other people, or wasting energy on the toxic dynamic or toxic empathy. And the reason it's toxic is because I pay a price for it. So when I say, that fat idiot, I pay the price of, number one, engaging it and my life force frequency, and number two, judging myself in a certain way because of picking up that information. And so, or for example, as well, the God source was saying, like, if you go, sorry, I have a hair on my face. Probably Evie's. Thanks, Evie. If you go to a park and you see someone at the park that say it's a mother that's being overly aggressive with her child, and you're thinking to yourself, why is that mother doing that with that child? Like, why is that mother doing that? That's weird. Like, she's being a bad mother. And you have these kinds of thoughts, then you're doing the exact same thing there. You are toxically empathing the information or the other side of the dynamic that's not yours, that doesn't belong to you. I don't have to fix it, save it, heal it. I don't have to figure out her life or her dynamics. I don't have to save her or save the child. All I have to do is make the choice inside myself to clear the subtle cue and the old program that was connected to the subtle cues of taking on other people's stuff to the detriment of myself. Because when I take that on, it bypasses my own regulation and safety and peace, and retaining my own life force frequency for the creations that I choose to put it towards. And in that way, that's what I was talking about. Christ, in that way, didn't care. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to spend my energy on that. I'm not going to give a care to that. I'm not going to put attention on that. And instead retained it inside of himself so that he could literally do miracle healings with his energy that he was retaining in himself for a purpose, for his purpose. And he was guided by his own internal self, by his own connection to his center point of reference, by his own soul, by his own connection to the God source, which he was making choices out of alignment to follow his own greatest pathway, to follow what would bring him the most joy. And bringing him the most joy were these healings. And so there were specific healings that he was guided to do. And he had the internal life force frequency to be able to do them because he was retaining it and making a conscious decision to retain that life force for something that was extremely magical and powerful. And so for me, as an empath, it's my job to be aware of the subtle cues and to choose not to do that. So I also recently had a client who was telling me that over the past couple weeks, 2 weeks ago, a week ago, that she was noticing herself watch herself, and she was noticing something very strange. And what she would watch herself do is she would note that when somebody was angry or quiet, is what she said. And in my mind, I think she meant cold. So if somebody's angry or cold towards her, what she was noticing herself do is go into a hyperactive state. And when she go into that hyperactive state, she'd be quickly moving and, talking really fast and, trying to engage their attention. And she was like, I don't even know. It was like, I didn't even let them talk. I didn't even let them talk about the thing. It was like, I couldn't help it. And as she was telling me this, I recognized this because this is something that I also have done as a coping mechanism. And when I was holding that space, the God source said to me that when we were children, we would sense, so again, empath, we would sense in the other anger, annoyance, frustration, and rejection. Right. And when we would sense that, we would do a false rising of frequency. So we would hypermanic state. We would rise our frequency through hypermania. And in that, we would, talk a lot. We would try to get them conversating. We would have these fast movements. And when we would do that, what the God sources say is typically that person would eventually attack you. And when they would attack you, it would finally get that energy out of them. And now that that energy was out of them, they would calm down and they would connect easier. And so the God source was saying to me, like, that, number one, that's a very animalistic mode of functioning. And literally, it's something the animals will do. So when one animal is angry, you either surpass it and you get angrier to calm that being down, or you turn on your belly and the animal calms down because you submit. So those are animal ways of holding difficult emotional spaces. And that was the other thing the God source was telling me, is that these experiences that we're having and these subtle cues are connected to our uncomfortable feeling states. So when you have an uncomfortable feeling state, and I would have talked about a couple videos ago about the unknown. So when you're going to make a choice in the unknown, so something you don't know what the full repercussions going to be of that choice, like you don't know how that's going to unfold. And that is another uncomfortable space for the humans, where we tend to go into anxiety and overwhelm, which leads to catastrophizing, so creating all the stories, trying to figure it out with your head, which oftentimes leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy for failure and imposter syndrome, which is all preventing you from taking the step forward. And so what the God source said in that space, slow down, love yourself when you recognize the uncomfortable feeling of overwhelm or facing the unknown, so that consciously we can choose not to let it affect us, and you can have your own back. You can support yourself there and give yourself the permission to take the step, or to make the choice, or to move forward anyways, which is going to get you closer to your golden pathway, or on your golden pathway, or your higher timelines. So what it was telling me about these uncomfortable spaces. So for anger, annoyance, frustration, and rejection are extremely uncomfortable for humans to feel, especially empaths, especially people who can feel other people's feelings. We can feel it even stronger. So where a person might be at a level, 7 inside themselves. This hair is driving me crazy. We could be at the person can think they're at a level 7 inside themselves, and we can be feeling it at like a 25. And so we know exactly, what's going on inside someone else. We can feel that. And so when we have that uncomfortable feeling of anger, annoyance, frustration, when someone's cold, when they're angry inside, our immediate reaction is to do this animal behavior. We read that subtle cue, we rise our frequencies, we get attacked, and then that person calms down. And we think we're helping ourselves in that, because, oh good, now the person calmed down and I don't have to feel those uncomfortable feelings. But in reality, is that good for you? Is that good for you to be attacked by someone? Like, is that really helping you? No, that's not helping. That's sickness. And what the God source said is, when we do these old modes of functioning in regards to these subtle cues of uncomfortable feelings, what it's actually doing is it pulling you out of your own state of regulation. So it's pulling you out of feeling safe and comfortable and calm and present and a right to be in your own space and in your own authenticity. And so that's a massive disservice to you. And I 100% recognize this program from my own existence and from my own childhood. And even recently, we were, I think it was Mother's Day, actually, we were heading out and we were late. And that's one of my That's common to me. I tend to be late when I do anything. And so it takes me longer than typical people to complete things and to get myself going. And so we were late, and I was freaking out inside me because I was like, oh my God, we're late. And I knew that my mom was going to be mad. So I was telling my kids, like, okay, we got to get going. But then I was also saying to them, because this time period is a time period where if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. It's like a Mercury retrograde since last October. It's just constant. But specifically right now in this period is that if you rush, you're going to pay a price. We're being asked to really practice the sacred feminine and slow down. Slow down. You're okay. You're all right. Check into yourself. Love yourself into wholeness. Make choices from conscious alignment, from your own center of self. We're being asked to do this more now than ever before. And if you don't do it, it's like be the turtle in the time of the fire horse, which is going extremely fast. So can you turtle in a time period where it's moving extremely fast so that you can stay in connection to your truth? And so I was saying to my kids, like, we need to go now. So be fast, but be conscious of your fastness, because if we're not conscious, we can pay prices. So we were doing that, and my kids were laughing at me. I talk to them like this all the time. And then we were headed there, and we were already late. And as we were headed there, I was like, get around that car. Like, come on, let's go. And my daughter was driving, and my daughter said to me, Mom, calm down. Calm down. This isn't even your pattern. This isn't even your program, right? You're okay. You're all right. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, just tend to yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. So I said, it's okay, Lisa. You're okay. You're all right. It's okay to be late sometimes. It's okay if somebody's angry. It's okay if they're upset. They have a right to be angry. They have a right to be upset. And you have a right to be regulated. You have a right to feel safe even here. You're doing the best you can. It's okay. It's all right. So I was directly taking back my power from that program, and in the moment trying to collapse that program that was ingrained in me as a child to come on, hurry up, let's go. And it's been obviously passing down through the generations, because my mom obviously learned that somewhere as well. And she obviously has not been able to heal her wound space, but now I'm going to. So because I'm slowing down enough to be conscious and aware to break these chains. And what the God Source told me, these are chains of reaction. So it's asking us to slow down and mother ourselves first. So what happened is our mothers didn't get mothered in the way they needed to be mothered. So they're mothering in the old way that they were mothered, being controlled and rushed and being forced. And they're doing it now to their own selves. And that's what I was trying to do to myself, and then passing that down to my children. And I don't want to do that. So I need to slow down enough to become aware and conscious and make different choices. And so I was healing that space inside myself. Then when we got to the restaurant, my mom was mad. She was pissed, and she was like cold, quiet, silent, but I could feel it inside of her. I could sense it. And I felt myself begin to go into the hyper manic state. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a lesson right after this information. Am I going to do it differently? And as soon as I could feel myself begin to go into that state, I slowed down and I said to myself, you have a right to stay regulated. You have a right to be calm. You have a right to be present. It's not your job to fix this for her. It's not your job to heal her. It's not your job to be the target so that she can calm down. She'll calm herself down. It's not your job. Breathe. You're okay. You're all right. Let it go. Slow down. Just breathe. And as I did that for myself, I began to calm and soothe, and it seemed like it disappeared itself. And if it was still there, I didn't even notice because I wasn't paying attention to that. I was paying attention to my own space, to my right, to my own conscious right, to my own state of existing. And when I said, you have a right to have fun, you have a right to be present, you have a right to do your own thing, then she just took her time and soothed herself and came out of it. So it worked out for all of us. But someone has to make the shift. Somebody has to make the change. Somebody has to be the one to do the work of consciousness and slowing down and breaking the chains of reaction. And in this time period, that's going to be us. We're being asked to do that. And I think I mentioned in that other video, but I want to mention again that there's this mother wound that's coming up right now where we're being asked to love ourselves, to mother ourselves first. That we're being asked to mother ourselves in uncomfortable emotional spaces. And we have internal subtle cues that also trigger our uncomfortable emotions, including external subtle cues like someone else's feeling state or somebody else's woundedness that we're being asked to be aware of and to choose not to take part in. Just by saying, no, I'm not doing that. That's a game and I'm not playing. So the extra piece that I just wanted to mention is that say if your child comes to you and they say something to you like, Mom, I didn't like it when you made me those, sandwiches in the past. Like, I don't like those sandwiches and I didn't like how you made them like that. Our first instinct is to do what our parents did. And that might be cry, that might be attack, that might be get physically violent with them. It might be saying, oh, you don't even know, and you're just lucky I made you a sandwich. And what we're not doing is mothering our own self first. And so when somebody says something to us, like our kid, like, I don't like something you did, I don't like how you did that, that hurt me, I didn't enjoy that. That hurts. That's a sting. It's like a punch, right? And what we're being asked to do is to tend to the sting, tend to the punch, love ourselves in that place. And when I love myself in that place, I can say to myself, I don't need my child's love to love myself. I don't need my husband's love to love myself. I don't need my mother's love to love myself. I don't need my boss's love to love myself. I don't need the guy in the Miata's love to love myself. I need my own love. And when I give myself my own love, then I begin to alchemize that state. And when I alchemize that state and I say, I have a permission to feel this and heal this, and they have a permission to speak their truth or to feel what they're feeling. And then what I begin to do is hold loving space for them. So then I'm able to say, I hear you and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that was a bad experience for you. It's okay that you didn't like that. And what I'm doing right here is breaking the chains of reaction. What I needed in that moment was for someone to hold loving space for me, which is what I did for myself. I loved myself into wholeness. I mothered my own self there. And then when we hold that loving space for ourselves, then we can hold loving space for the other. So I hear you. It's okay. It's okay that you're saying that. You have a permission to say that. I know you're going to heal that space. Is there anything else you wanted to tell me? Right? And we might be like, can you hang on a second? Got to heal myself. Because these patterns are massively ingrained in us. So the reaction is ingrained. So whether you respond with fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or flapping, which is a new one that they're talking about, which is exactly what you do when you go into that manic state, when you go into that hypermania. You're like, blah, 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 blah. What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Right? That's that flapping. That means you're in a disconnected state. If you just puddle and cry, or if you get aggressive and attack, that's fight. Flight is puddling, kind of running away. Freeze would be like not answering back. And fawning would be telling them what they want to hear. And we don't want to do that either. That's us pandering instead of healing ourselves. When you pander, you're bypassing your healing. And the key is to heal your own self first, and then to become loving space, because you held it for yourself. Now I can become the loving space, which will allow them to complete what they're going through or feeling, just like we are trying to complete it for ourselves. So the last thing I want to throw in on that point is that we're humans. So we're going to feel annoyed, frustrated, angry. And when I say hold loving space, in some cases, when we hold our own anger, frustration, annoyance, and we alchemize it for ourselves. So, like say my kid cleaned something and I don't like the way they cleaned, I can come out with fight, flight, freeze, and fawn and attack, or I can love myself into wholeness first. And then from the wholeness, from the alignment, if I still need to say something, because I'll know from the creativity, from the space of creativity, do I need to say something now or don't I? Is this now completed and I just feel fine? Or do I need to say something? And in some of those spaces, I'm still going to have to say something. And I might have to say, thank you so much for cleaning, but I don't like how you didn't put the bottles away. And when we say that, sometimes the other person's going to be impacted. They're going to feel sad because they were so proud of the job they did. And they're going to be like, well, they're going to feel hurt. And our job is to allow them to. If it hurts because I said that thing, that's okay, because they'll heal themselves. And we, as mothers, we have a right to exist too. So if I want to point something out, or that's my truth to say this thing, I have a right to say it. But I want to say it from wholeness, from conscious choice, from checking in to see, is this appropriate? And if it's appropriate, then I have a right to say it. And if it makes them uncomfortable, that's okay. They have a right to be uncomfortable. They have a right not to like when I tell them that I would like them to do more. That's okay. And nobody's doing anything wrong there. That's just part of growth and expansion. Okay. I think that's most of the stuff that I wanted to speak about today. This is an add-on to mothering ourselves, which is another video I did before. And it's the information that's literally coming up right now for us to practice collectively. And so we're going to be clearing these programs, and I'm just going to do that right now. So, Source God Mother, I acknowledge and accept everything that we've been speaking of so far today, starting with the subtle cues that we're picking up in this time period, or we're accessing, or we're becoming aware of. And that when we become aware of these subtle cues, which literally is going to be judgment. If you're judging something, that's you literally picking up a dynamic and trying to take care of it for them, figure it out for them, heal them, and that's not my job. My job is to tend to my own self first, and to mother my own self, and to be aware of my own programs and to collapse them. And so when I notice that, I can do that first technique that Lisa talked about, where I can say, I give them permission to be that way, and then back up from that and let that go. Or I can literally just say, that's a game and I'm not playing. And I want to clear that old program from my mind, body, spirit, and soul. And it's a toxic empath program, because I pay the price for that. So I'm using my empathy to read something in the external environment, thinking that it's my job to read it, and then it's my job to fix it, save it, heal it. And that's an illusion. That's an impossibility. And it's a wasting of my life force frequency. It's everybody's own job to heal themselves. And so what we're trying to do is control the external realm to feel safe. And it's not my job to control the external realm to feel safe. It's my job to love myself into wholeness so that I can feel safe. My job is to alchemize my external environment and to choose regulation, and to love myself into wholeness and access my own creativity, and to make a conscious decision to remain in my space of wholeness and oneness and love. And source godmother, I forgive myself for those things, including the judgments that I thought like, oh man, I'm such a bitch. And the reality is we're actually far from that. We're not going to let other people's wounds tell us who we are, just like we're not going to alter ourselves for other people. That's in the past. That's something of the past that a lot of females were expected to do. Or the feminines were expected to alter themselves for the toxic masculine, and they toxically mothered by altering themselves. And we're not altering ourselves anymore. We're done with that. We have a right to be in our wholeness. We have a right to be in our regulation. It's not my job to go out of my regulation to help that person to calm or soothe themselves or to tend to themselves or do their work. My job is to tend to myself and to retain my life force frequency so that I can discern what I would like to spend my life force frequency on, and to spend it on majorly creative things that are going to bring my heart joy and happiness and peace and presence. So I clear, cleanse, and heal those old modes of functioning and those old ways of existing. And I clear that program of, subtle emotions and uncomfortable emotions. And so when we're feeling the uncomfortable emotions, this is where we go into those old programs, those toxic empath programs. And we just need to recognize that that's not our job, and that we don't have to do that. And that we take back our power from uncomfortable emotional spaces so that we can feel safe even there, so that we can stay present even there, so that we can stay in our consciousness even there. And Source Godmother, please help me with that, and please help me to get aware of that. And I recognize that another one of those programs is where we get around someone who's angry, annoyed, frustrated, or rejecting. And the toxic empath pattern to that uncomfortable emotional space is to go into this hyper manic state, and it's a false rising of frequency. And it's a distraction. It's us thinking that it's our job to tend to the other to the detriment of ourselves. And I'm not doing that anymore. I apologize to my own self that I ever took part in that. And I choose to never take part in that old mode of functioning again. And I recognize that I have a right to stay in my regulation. I have a right to enjoy my experience, whether or not other people are. I have a right to love myself into wholeness and make conscious decisions about how I spend my life force frequency. And I'm not wasting my life force frequency on those old modes of existing any longer. And I heal those wound spaces, modes of functioning, ways of existing, trigger points, toxic dynamics within and toxic dynamics without. Trigger points, anchors, binds, barriers, contracts, cords, because some of this happens with cording. So we're corded to another person. It's like a hook with a cord, and it hooks us in. So the subtle cue hooks us in. Now there's a cord. Now we're pumping out our life force to that person, and we're wasting our frequency. And it's not even going to that human. It's going to the shadow in that human. It's going to the darkness. It's going to the pain space in that human. And it's feeding the pain space, which another word for a pain space is the demon realm, right? And I don't want to do that. Yuck, disgusting. No, thank you. I'm done that now. And I clear, cleanse, neutralize, harmonize, and alchemize those modes of functioning, those ways of existing from my mind, body, spirit, and soul, past the DNA and RNA and into the God space of first creation, including clearing the old DNA and RNA, disintegrating it back to dust so that we can initiate the new DNA and RNA and reconfigure that DNA and RNA for each unique blueprint, given the deeper truths that are coming out at this time. I want to add in here too something that the God Source was showing me that's actually really, really, really magical. And it was showing me that these are healings of the yellow chakra. So there are healings just below the rib cage in the yellow chakra, and that the old way was to receive. That's Evie in the background snoring and holding loving frequency. You can hear her purring / snoring. It's just the way she breathes. And that what the God Source was showing me is that when we pull information through that yellow chakra in the old way, so that's where there's judgment attached to it, judgment to others, like, oh, I need to fix, save, or heal. I need to do something about this. That's the only reason we would have judgment. And or judgment to the self, which is I need to be better. I'm judging my own self that I need to fix, save, or heal something about myself, instead of loving myself into wholeness and alchemizing and just knowing that I'm a human and I'm just learning, and humans learn all the time, and that it's okay to learn and it's okay to be a unique self. But when we alchemize that out of the yellow chakra and we start to bring that information in through purity, they were kind of showing me the orange chakra is a filter system. So it goes from the yellow chakra down through the orange chakra and then down to the red chakra where it foundations, so where it roots into us. So if I root into me, oh, you're such a bitch, Lisa, then that's going to be part of my rooting. And it's gonna cause self-hate, self-disgust, human hate, human disgust, planet hate, planet disgust, universe hate, universe disgust, or God hate, God disgust, which is obviously a major wound space. And we don't want to do that. We want to know the truth of who we are. And the truth is that I'm a loving human being who had been programmed as a toxic empath. And I'm not doing that to myself. And I'm not doing this to this world, because when I try to fix, save, heal everybody else, I'm bypassing my own story and my own fixing, saving, healing. And I'm not allowing them to go through their own lessons. And it's their lessons that are going to give them growth. So it's like a prevention of growth. And I don't want to take part in that. No, that's an old way of existing. And I'm done that now. And I can clear that with my own love. So what it said is that we're the orange chakra and the yellow, orange, and red chakras are going through healings right now. And it was showing me that filter of the orange chakra is shifting, and it was showing me a very peach colored orange. And one thing that we can really channel through our bodies right now as we do these healings is that peachy orange. And when I was holding this space, the God Source said, this is a God Source wound. And there's been other God Source wounds that I've seen. I think maybe I've shared a couple of them, and I'll have to spend some time holding that space so that I can remember the others. But this is a God Source wound because the God Source has its own judgment of its own self. I don't know if it's like right now in this present time, but at some point in time, the God Source went through a process itself where it was judging itself for the universe that it created. And I could see it was like kind of the creepy things of this universe, which are natural to this universe, like a lion eating a giraffe, or people being mean or cruel to somebody else, or even judgment, right? And it was kind of judging itself on it. And what it was saying to me is that when it goes into full acceptance of itself and it loves itself in all experiences, and it gives itself safety in all experiences, and it forgives itself for its original creations, just like me as a human is going to forgive myself for my original creations of this human, it said, when we get to that space of forgiveness and we get to that space of loving ourselves, and that's the other thing of this time period, is we're mothering ourselves in a brand new way. We're loving ourselves underneath of separation consciousness that we've never done before. And that when we love ourselves in that way, the first thing is showing me that our bodies are going to miraculously heal in ways that they've never healed before, because we're actually loving our bodies in ways we've never loved our bodies before. And you'll remember from a couple of videos ago, I was talking about the male-centric wound of of bypassing loving our bodies and waiting for, I can't love my body until a man loves my body, right? Until a man loves my body, I can't love my body. And that's insanity. No, thank you. I can love my body. I don't have to wait for a man to love my body. I don't have to wait for my mother to heal her male-centric wounds. And I don't have to wait for my mother to love my body. I need to love my own body. I need to give myself permission to love my body now. And I need to give myself permission to love myself in uncomfortable feelings now. I don't have to wait for the uncomfortable feelings to end. I don't have to wait for the external world to change. I can just love myself right now. And that's the permissions we're giving ourselves now. And when God gives itself the permission to love itself in its own self-judgment and no longer choose not to play out the subtle cue and the uncomfortable feelings and to heal its own program around that, and instead of dysregulating itself, going into loving itself into wholeness even there, then it begins to access timelines or potentials for this universe that were there side by side to the way this universe unfolded. There was other potentials at the time. There was other ways for it to go, but it went this way. And it was saying that when we can love ourselves all the way back to the beginning, we can actually begin to create new ways of existing. And that's part of this peachy color. And that tells me that the universe sort of rebirthed itself at that time with these potentials of ways that it can exist. And one of those things it was telling me was on aging. And it said in our universe, like when things move, when they go through movement, they are birthed, like the sandcastle is created, and then slowly the sandcastle disintegrates back into the sand. And the human body is the same. We're created, and then with movement over time, we slowly disintegrate back into the sand. And so it's like the aging process is us slowly disintegrating back into the sand, which is a natural part of this universe. And it's only one way that this universe can go. And I think it was intonating that potentially into the future, we don't have to do it that way. But first we have to love that way fully and completely before we can choose a new way. And so, heck yeah, if we can clear that from our mind, body, spirits, and souls, heal these wound spaces, heal these chakra systems, heal these old modes of dynamics within and without, then we choose that. And we clear, cleanse, heal, neutralize, harmonize, and alchemize all of that now through all quantum fields, past the DNA and RNA and into the God space of first creation, releasing all drama, karma, trauma, pulling out the dharma, neutralizing, purifying, clear, cleansing, and healing from the cellular, energetic, and magnetic structures, and from the subconscious, unconscious, and conscious minds, pulling all of this through to oneness, to wholeness, to peace, to truth, to love. Welcoming those helper frequencies and those helper beings into these spaces to help us to access these spaces, recognizing that this is us stretching out extremely far. And then when we stretch out this far, oftentimes you can feel nauseous or a little bit sick to your stomach, and just normalizing that feeling for the human, but also giving ourselves the permissions to stretch this far into these unknown spaces that we are allowed to exist within, that we just forgot about or that we didn't explore. But as we explore it, we can utilize it as we move forward in those good ways. I release through the children and up through the ancestral webs, past lifetimes in their webs, and for the collective universal who are open to it at this time, including all planetary systems and on all sides of the veil, including this universe and in the multiverses. I clear, cleanse, and heal. I forgive. I quantum forgive. I forgive that we existed this way in the past. I forgive that the mothers, grandmothers, mothers weren't able to heal these wound spaces in the past. It wasn't the timing for that yet. We're in the first generation and the first environmental frequency permission state to begin to heal these things. And so we came here to do this, and here we can go, friends. Let's do it. And we forgive those that came before. We forgive that we lived this way inside of our bodies. We forgive that we bypassed our bodies. We forgive that we bypassed regulation. We forgive that we got stuck in those toxic empathy, and that we got stuck in toxic dynamics because of that, and that we were kind of like spinning that Ouroboros, that tail, the snake eating its own tail, the wheel, and we choose to get off that wheel now. We clear these old programs from our mind, body, spirits, and souls. And we purify back to the God source origins, welcoming those healed helpers, those beings of light, those doctors, healers, and nurses in all realms of existence to continue to purify and alchemize these spaces and drop us into those original blueprints, those original codes, and to continue these healings until completed. We give so much gratitude and so much thankfulness to those helper beings and helper frequencies that are here with us, helping us, guiding us, loving us, nudging us, assisting us to get where we're needing to get, giving us those cues, slowing us down, saying like, whoa, Lisa, like showing me that vibration. Thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. We know we're never alone. We know you're always here with us, helping us, guiding us, that we're here in the form realm and you're there in the etheric realm, and we're working together as a team. And we appreciate you, and we know that you appreciate us. So much love between us. We share that love. And we clear, cleanse, and heal all of that now through all quantum fields, and we're opening to receive for best and the highest well-being. With the most ultimate of love and gratitude, I choose this. So I choose this and breathe. And a good etheric breath. And we're just going to do our hygiene, or energy hygiene. So Source Godmother, and as we do this part, please also do the same healing for anything within our heart space, anything within our purification space. Please help to immediately evolute our systems for best and highest well-being of the systems within us and the systems around us, including those frequencies of our feet. Upgrade those frequencies of our feet so it's exactly those frequencies that we need to ground ourselves into wholeness and to root into our center of selves and into our creativity, and to receive the codes that we need in the timing that we need them. Please also root us from our root chakra down into the universal star beneath our feet, and root us fully and completely into nature, into the form realm, and help us to exchange, share life force frequencies, knowledge, wisdom, codes, and essences. Because I've been noticing lately more animal visitations, and they're sharing their medicines or their essences. So they're trying to help us in our process of shift. And I think it's because we're communicating more with them. So yes, we want that. We choose that. We love you, and we know that you love us. And we clear, cleanse, and heal all of that now through all quantum fields, and we're opening to receive for best and highest well-being. With the most ultimate of love and gratitude, I choose this. Sorry if I just jammed the phone around. My thumb was sore, so I had to move it. So again, a good etheric breath. Checking in if you're lightheaded. And if you're lightheaded, just asking the God Source to ground you to your feet now. And if you need just a little extra love, please trigger my vagus nerve now. Feels good. All that warmth. And so I am just sharing my personal stories because that's how I find is the easiest way to impart the codes that are coming in with this information, knowledge, and wisdom. I don't need anyone to judge my stories. Believe me, I've already done the work on my own stories. And so we're not here to judge ourselves. We're here to grow. And I'm sharing my stories in an effort for growth. And I hope that my stories helped you and helped you to understand and see some things deeper and clearer, and to get some healings today. And anybody who would like to share their own stories in regards to collectively what they're noticing arising, what they're seeing in their bodies, please share below. If you have noticed that everything going wrong experience, and it's funny because I said it's almost like if we go too fast, things will go wrong, but they'll go in wrong in the best way possible, and they'll work out in a really good way, which is really strange, but that's what we're noticing. So for example, we were painting my daughter's room the other day, and the ladder just like fell down. And we were like, what the heck? It was so loud, and it just bang, bang, bang. And it didn't knock over any paint. It didn't hit any walls. Like, it was a miracle outside of my daughter's poor arm that got a bruise. But outside of that, it was like, how did it happen so perfectly? Even though it was terrible, it happened perfectly in the best way possible. So that's what we're going to notice happening in this time period. And it's almost like a gentle lessons, even though they aren't gentle. They're difficult lessons, but the God source is trying to do it in the gentlest way possible. So when we're in these lesson spaces, to really step back and to give ourselves the love we need to be able to get these lessons, because some of them are some pretty heavy punches. And it's like, oof, yeah, I do that, right? And you want to really appreciate and love yourself for doing this work. This is difficult work, but it's the work we're being called to do in this time period if you're here to help the collective to shift and change and alter and to evolve into the new way of existing. So if you're here and you're doing that, big pats on the back, big high five. And my love to all of you. I hope you all find the peace you're looking for, all the peace you need, all the peace you deserve, slowing down into ourselves to love ourselves into wholeness. And I hope you have a beautiful day, night, evening, and I will see you next time. Lots of love from me. Bye now.